Welcome to the Leadership Logic Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Sonya, and this is your go-to platform for candid conversations about the ups, downs, and breakthroughs of leadership. You better believe it. We get into it and we tell the truth. So whether you're just starting your journey or looking to refine your leadership skills, this is your space to join us for lessons, blessings, laughter, and of course, the logic behind great leadership. So let's dive into it, good people. Okay, hey, good people. Welcome back to the Leadership Logic Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Sonya.
I'm DJ Ward.
And I am Frank Willis, friends of Sonya, Dr. Sonya. That sounds kind of crazy.
Dr. Sonya, babe.
Dr. Sonya. We all started together at A&M. Who would have thought you'd be Dr. Sonya?
We got to do it one time. AM. You.
Yeah.
So we are all friends, and we met as freshmen in college, and we built a bond. This young man is my bestie, but I don't know why he's my bestie, because he gives me the hardest time as my bestie. If I ever had another brother from another mother, he is certainly it. We have done so many different things together as friends. And of course, you all know our super great co-host, DJ Ward. And we've also been friends since our freshman year in college. And that is my business partner. And we all happen to be educators. And friend, we're going to have just a candid, raw conversation about our journey as friends in education. And so it's a pleasure to have you on, Mr. Frank.
I like to talk about that A&M piece because I think that's important, because I got so many teachers that go to these colleges, Howard and all these Ivy League black colleges. You know what they all have in common? They all work for me. And they putting back a whole lot of student loans. Their education hasn't got me much further than ours got us, have it?
True. Let me tell you, college pending high everywhere I go, everywhere I've worked. So, they have University of Alabama also. So most people that aren't familiar with HBCUs always know University of Alabama. So I had my pendant, and it was some people who did not look like me. And so one person asked, "Did you go to Alabama?" And the other person says, "No, that's not the Alabama. That's Alabama A&M, and it's an HBCU." And she explained what it was, right? And said, and that is so remarkable. I'm glad you're well educated and informed. And I said, but you know what the difference is? My HBCU landed me in this executive office that allowed me to invite you, where you all must sit at a table where I am the key decision maker, because you all work for me.
I love that, Sonya.
How about that?
And I like the fact you said that you're in your executive office, because this is no slight. This has been my other debate with people that get these doctorates. And I don't know if it's education or miseducation. I had the pleasure of meeting Marva Collins, and she was asked by, I think, at least 2 sitting presidents to be the Secretary of Education. And stories like Lean on Me, and through my personal experience, I've had more growth under Mr. and Ms. I have Dr. anybody. So I currently have people who are writing dissertations and doing all this stuff, but if I was to do a doctorate, I think I would do my paper on what is the effects of doctor. In other words, do doctors have more effective schools than regular people? Because I think some education is really just miseducation.
I don't think so. There's people with masters.
Excuse me?
Oh,
it's not necessary. I think sometimes it makes you less marketable, because I personally would not hire a doctor to teach first grade or second grade. I mean, why would I pay all that money for somebody to teach in first grade?
I got it.
The fact that
that's a really good conversation, because I think people I'm a person that I think with the end in mind. I begin with the end in mind. And so I start making preparations for what I want my end journey to look like. And I was one of those that did that very early, because let me tell you, when I started, I the first year I was like, what does it take for me to retire comfortably? And so my mom was like, well, if you want to make this amount, you got to get these promotions. Your last 5 salaries have to equal this. Because in Texas, it's your last 5 highest salaries, and your age plus your years have to equal 80 and all this. And I knew I didn't want to work until I couldn't move around. So I taught and I started thinking promotion, 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 and making decisions that's going to pay me more because I knew that I wanted my last 5 salaries to all be 6 figures so that my retirement income would be in the 6 figure range. So while I understand what you're saying about having a doctor teach first grade, it's about cultivating students, but also what does she want her professional journey to be like?
All share in common is that we went into our careers early. I think that's something important that people need to realize. I always use the analogy with my students. If you take 3 professions, let's say a fireman, a doctor, and a teacher, where a fireman can actually start right after high school. That will enable them to buy $100,000 house. When that doctor gets out of school, he can buy a $250,000 house. But guess what? That's 12 years later. That $250,000 house, that same $100,000 house that now has 8 years worth of equity in it, and go ahead and retire. So whatever decision you make, I think it's important you go in and you do it and make that decision quick because quite frankly, I have a friend right now. He is a non-tenured teacher, and I'm thinking about with you being retired and Don being retired, I'm looking towards retirement. I would be 50 some years old, and you're talking about our second journey, and they haven't even made their first journey. And you can say what you want to say about education, but we got some of the best retirement, and you can get sick, go to the hospital, you can have triple pneumonia, and it's going to cost you a $30 deductible.
And so I agree with Sonya. I did the same thing. Like I knew about 5, 6 years before I retired that I was really thinking about retiring. And like her, when I started working at the age of 23, I turned 23. I started work August 12th. My birthday was August 11th. I turned 23. So I knew, I said, man, in 25 years, I'll be 48 years old. How in the world can I retire at 48 years old? So when it got really close to that time, and after all of my entrepreneurial experiences, I knew that I needed to build that foundation. So I went into real estate and I did it 2 years prior so that I could get my broker's license, so that I could be an associate broker, so that I could teach real estate and really just have those things in place to help me if I decided to retire. And so now that I am retired, my income from education definitely sustains me, but it's not like what I want it to be. But I get it for the rest of my life, and my children get it for the rest of their lives. So for me, that was very important to leave the majority of my money in my account so that I could live, so that I could work if I wanted to. And if I didn't want to, I didn't have to. And my children could also get it when I'm gone.
But let me ask you two this question.
And that Weight Watchers mean that we're able to sit back and wait for the post and watch for the check every month.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah. But let me ask you this question, Frank and Don. Why is it like we're one of the most noble professions out there? We lead, and we're on such an important journey to manifest all the other professions, but we're some of the most underpaid people. So I don't know too many educators along their journey that has not had to have a side hustle, a side job, work. You got to teach all day and then you have to do tutorials just to make, or just to be comfortable, I should say. And I think that's sad.
In education, they say the further you get away from the kids, the more money you make. So the people actually that are the A's that's actually wiping feces, they get the $15 an hour. The further you get away from the kids, being downtown, the more money you make. But I also think for 2 reasons, we have a part to play in it too. We used to be, when I was young, I always thought the teachers were rich because when you went to church, they drove nice cars, they spoke well, and we got to get that sense of pride back. The other thing, education has become a fallback career, to where I have literally seen 2 people hired at Applebee's. Like, it's not a week that passed that people are like, hey, you need a teacher? I'm like, are you an educator? No, I can just go back and get emergency certification. You wouldn't tell a doctor, hey, you need an extra surgeon? I'm just going to come up. But with teaching, a lot of times your social study teachers are people who didn't pass the bar. Your science teachers didn't pass the MCAT. And then you just fall back like, I'm not doing anything else. I'll just teach school. And I think we got to take it seriously. And I look at some of the teachers that work for me, and I even tell my daughters, it doesn't matter about the uniform policy. Why do you want to look that way? If there were no uniform policy in place, certain things you should want to do, and especially in our profession, we can't look at the kids. We can't wear yoga pants. So we got to get serious about ourselves. I wear a suit every day with the exception of Fridays. It's not to be flashy, but it's to let my kids know that I don't have to do certain things to have certain. I love it when my teachers show off, so to speak, because they need to see that it's not what you make, it's what you do with what you make.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because you want to model what you want to mimic.
And I think that sports has been more of a bad thing for people than for anyone else, because for one person to make it to the league, now you got another 200. And the reality is every school has a team. And on that team, they got somebody good. And that's not just the United States, that's all over the world. You literally have a greater chance of getting struck by lightning, standing on one leg, scratching off the lottery ticket. But we put all our eggs in this basket. And I tell my coach, he said, well, how does it hurt? Well, if you employ the principles of coaching, like discipline and teamwork, that's one thing. But we aren't instilling it. Now you unemployed, you angry, and don't.
I do believe, like you said, we do tend to get a lot of people where we're the alternative choice for a career. But I don't think that it would be that way if the government and the state and local officials actually valued what we do enough to pay us at a comparable level as they do doctors, right? Yeah. Because we have to train you to be a good student in order for you to become that doctor.
But you do know that it is a
policeman. The average fireman at one point had like an associate's degree. But when it's time for them to stick up and go on strike, they stand up for themselves.
Exactly.
We are the most educated group of people, but we don't stand up for ourselves. If these kids stay home for 3 days straight and ate up all the food and groceries, they would appreciate us. You already know that when the Christmas break, the parents are saying, like, when does school start back?
Hey, Frank, listen. During COVID, I saw a truck, a big SUV. It had a sign in the back window that said, "Dear teacher, I'm sorry. It was my kid."
Yeah.
Like, I realize it because I'm trying to teach them now. But I do believe that, because education is a teacher profession, over the years, it was one of the lowest paid because that's what the women did. And
Right.
so we just still haven't caught up with the times of paying teachers for what they're worth.
So
and teachers are held in such high esteem. We expect teachers to be up there with the Pope. Oh my gosh, you're a teacher. How dare you do that?
And that's the point I'm making. Some places they are in Singapore, who are some of the leading people in education, especially in terms of mathematics. In Singapore, if we were out to dinner, we wouldn't even pay for our ticket. Teachers are so highly revered, you're like a rock star. Yes, they don't have discipline problems. If you cut up, you go to the rice paddies. They also train that you're going to be an engineer. Therefore, you're not going to take all these unnecessary classes. We weren't having any problems here. You remember when those Americans went over to Singapore and they did the graffiti and they got tamed by those people? We don't have, it's not the Singapore they do over there. You remember we went over there, those Americans did that graffiti and those professional martial arts people caned them? And guess what? They don't have any in Singapore. In Singapore, we have a classmate that had a sister that went to Singapore and she took drugs. And the penalty over there is to be beheaded. She had to go to the embassy. It took about 3 or 4 years to get over. But the thing is, they don't have a drug problem over there. So we don't have any penalties over here, and we don't hold educators in high esteem like they do in other countries.
That is very true because I grew up, I went to elementary and then high school in Germany. So I was very naive. It is such a safe place to grow up and live that we didn't have discipline problems at school. That was almost unheard of to have a fight or anything that was going on that was disruptive to the educational environment. Because even being a military child, your parent, whoever was enlisted in the military, they're responsible for your actions. So if I got in trouble or did something at school, my dad would have to go in and see his commander about my actions, because the motto in the military is you can't lead troops if you can't lead your family.
Yeah. Your first teacher is your mother. If your mother can't teach you nothing, you can't. Now, you don't even have to understand education. You understand cooking. You can't make chicken salad out of chicken shit, because all you're going to have is chicken shit, mayonnaise, and pickles. You got to have some ingredients to work with.
Yeah.
So you can't just think it's a one-size-fit-all, drop them off, because, again, you got to have some ingredients to work with.
Like one of our biggest challenges as educators is making sure that we're in alignment and cohesive with the parent. So I think back to what you said, Don. Historically, it was also a village approach. There's no more village in education. It's almost seems like the school against the community, community
Yeah,
against
that's
the
what I
school.
was gonna say.
Typically, and I want to speak to how we can actually cure this, but typically you stayed in a neighborhood, you went to church in that neighborhood, you went to school in that neighborhood. Let me just tell you a story. I just got through calling baseball, right? I'm an umpire. A few weeks back, this kid loaned his batting glove to his friend. So they got ready to leave. His mom said, "Go get your glove." And he said, "Mom," his mom said, "Okay, the game is over. Go get your glove." And he said, "Well, that game is not over yet." She said, "Fine, you'll just get it at church tomorrow." He said, "Mom, they're going out of town." She said, "Okay, well, we'll go around his house and get it." And he said, "Mom, they're going out of town." She said, "Well, you'll just get it at school Monday." So from this story, I deduct, A, they play in the same baseball league, they go to the same church, they go to the same school, and they live in the same neighborhood. But far too often do we live here, we work there, we go to church here, we go to school there, so there truly is no village concept anymore. Now, a long time ago, I think it was Iowa. I want to say Des Moines, Iowa. What they came up with is that if you were a public official, you made over $50,000, you had 2 years to move into the city. And what that does is because in so many places, if you work here and you live somewhere else, your tax bracket is going somewhere else. Exactly. If you were forced to stay, if myself and Dunn stayed on the same street, and that was blight and broke down cars. It wouldn't take us but 15 minutes to call the police and make them cut their grass. But when we go across town, we don't have that vested interest. If our kids had to go to that school, then we would make sure that that school is the very best school. But most importantly, if our taxes had to go to that community, we can have better policemen, we can have better education, we can do that. But far too often do we work one place and we teach somewhere else, and we don't have a vested interest there.
It's taught in the area where I live or in the county where where I work. Because I pick my jobs based on proximity because I don't want to travel. And so a lot of the kids, when I was a principal, I was now receiving the children's children, that I taught. And so I do believe that, Frank, and I had never even thought about that.
But that's a catch-22 too, because some of the hard decisions you have to make. Do you really want to stay next to the guy that you had to put out of school? Or I know you cleaning Dr. Watson now, but do you really want to be seen in the grocery store with the kids that you teach?
Right. So, and let me tell you, I've had some people try to roll up on me because I suspended their child, and then let me know they were going to I'm gonna kick your ass tomorrow if he's suspended. And literally, no, that was what they said. And she brought her husband. And so I said, well, I get here every morning at 7:30. I guess I'll see you then. And she actually came with her husband with the intent. But what she didn't realize is that there were 6 police cars waiting on her. And I got out of my car and I said, well, let me take out my nice jewelry and let me take my jacket off because I don't want her tearing up my stuff before she assaults me and goes to jail. And I walked in. But you're right. I think that's never deterred me because after that, we got a chance to sit down and I got a chance to explain to her what happened. Your son cannot assault a teacher. I'm not going to tolerate it. And I suspended him when I could have sent him to jail. And so we talked about, but because we had that community in common, and she realized I'm not trying to take down on you, she began to respect me because of that.
But first of all, we don't suspend kids. They suspend themselves. We just write paperwork.
Exactly. I agree with that.
I love that. I've never heard that, but I love that.
Yeah, I would always say, you know what? You came to my office because of something that you did. I did not solicit you. There was something that you did in your actions that caused you to be here before me. But I always, even in having to write that suspension notice, I won't say suspend someone. I always tried to keep that rapport and have that respect so that they still knew. They was like, all right, come on, sit down. I know you're going to suspend me, but I am.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and it's not
but guess what?
Now, Frank, you're making way too much money for you not to have the proper internet. And you're
I got proper internet. I have proper internet. We all good, though. But
Frank,
You look
we
like
don't see you
Jada.
at all.
I know you don't see me because I cut the camera off because I want to have a piece. Now, you run that district over there. You let me run this house. And speaking of mine, I be telling people all the time, I don't want to suspend your job. I just want to order me some wool pants and a tie today. I did not come to work to do all this paperwork because
Go
the
ahead.
amount of effort it takes to send somebody home is ridiculous.
Cuss the camera off on the podcast.
Coming back in.
But speaking of which, it goes back to my original point. Every educator, or not every, most educators that I know always have a side hustle. But throughout our journeys, all of us have had to have a side business of some sort to make a substantial amount of money.
Exactly.
Well,
I
I can agree to a certain extent, but I think we are kind of different anyway. I mean, some people could really be complacent, but we have always been the type of people that want more, want to save more, want to leave a legacy for our kids. So we can live real handsome off of what we get, but it's just those extra things that we are accustomed to doing. So I wouldn't say that we get bad pay. And I tell teachers, you're not going, when you calculate a teacher's pay, you got to divide it by 9 months and not 12. You ain't working but 7.5 hours a day. You get a break. So physically working 5 hours a day. And so while I get it, when you look at what the average person makes, teachers make more than the average person. So if an average person can make it, we could make it. It's just that we just want more.
See, I disagree with that.
Yes, disagree. All right, go, Sonya. You can disagree with him.
I disagree with that because the amount of hours, they don't just work 7.5 hours a day. They teach that time. There is prep time that it has to occur before or after. They have to attend extra events. They have to do a lot of things to just prepare quality instructional experiences for 7.5 hours a day.
And not to mention the money that comes out of your pocket just to make your classroom feasible for that education.
Well, I can go along with that. But as being an administrator, you do know that we get a lot of funds, a lot of funds. And teachers are often compensated for those things you're talking about. And what you're doing is you're taking an optimum teacher. You're taking for granted that every teacher is like you or me. And I got a lot of great teachers that are constantly buying things. But for everyone, you got 3 that just go home and they use their prep time. So I'm the type of person, I do work at home now, especially with the new job. But my kids or anybody I know, don't come to my job. Because when I'm at my job, I'm working. But likewise, at a certain time, I don't want to talk about school because I'm with my family. And I just think that we spend so much time with other folks' kids. I would never be so tired of teaching other folks' kids that I don't have time for mine.
And that was one of my philosophies. One of my philosophy was I would always say, I cannot take care of 1950 and neglect my 2. Because growing up, they always say teachers' kids and preachers' kids. And when I decided to be a teacher, when I decided to go into administration, I was single and my kids were young. But I always wanted to be sure that I gave them what they needed. I always wanted to be sure that I did not neglect my children because I had to take care of the 2,000 in the school. So I've always been blessed to work with some really good administrators, especially when I was in the high school, to say, we would come there and I would say, okay, I have practice this day. I have a game this day. So I can take volleyball Friday. I can take choir Sunday. I can do this. And they understood that my children were my priority.
Because the benefit of teachers is that usually when you're off, your children are off. And you need to utilize that. And who's most notorious in that than coaches? I know so many coaches who have just coached championship teams. Their kids are so goofy, they can't even walk down the street without falling. You made all these people, but your own kids are goofy. And your kids may be able to understand if you don't make it to that game. But they're not going to understand.
You say they were goofy, Frank?
Yeah, your kids not going to understand if you didn't make it to that game because you was at somebody else's game. Charity begins at home and spreads abroad. Your best resume is your testimony. How are you living?
You're right, Frank.
Yeah,
I agree with that.
Yeah, but the point we're making is that often as educators, you lose focus of your own children, and you lose yourself in educating everybody else's kids, and yours go neglected. That's just not something I'm going to do. I could have been an administrator in another district years ago, but my children were smaller, and so I know that it's more important to me to be at my children's cheerleading camps because I was a cheer dad and all that good stuff, than for me to be at a school. And I think that even the Bible says a wise man leaves an inheritance. So you can't.
Children.
Yeah. So I waited until my daughter got into middle school too, because I was in leadership, but not taking that principalship role on until she got into middle school.
Exactly.
Because that was important for me as well, to not be a great employee, but then horrible as a mother. And
Right.
so I had to find that balance. But I will tell you, when I got into like the district office and the higher, director and other roles that were higher, their empathy was different, because, and I get it, because they were trying to run a business and trying to run an entire organization, and they didn't have the same level of compassion as when I was on the campus, because they were like, well, she's in high school. I mean, yeah, but she still needs a mother. She still needs, time. This is the pivotal time of her life where I got to make sure she is college and career ready, and not something else to the streets.
My teachers sometimes think I'm insensitive. Like, well, my children are out of school. Now, if your children, if you have let them go to private school, fine. So if you got private school money when they're out of school, get a private school daycare. No, you can't bring your kids up. I'm not running a daycare. You can't watch your kids and watch mine at the same time. And you already knew you. But what you're not going to do is bring your kids to the school and like it's a baby.
Yeah, I agree with that. We are still running a business.
Yes.
Correct.
Yes.
And let me ask you this. How
Goes
do you
back,
feel?
Frank, wait a second. So that goes back to that pay. That goes back to sometimes teachers not acting in a professional way. I can remember when I was just going into administration, I asked my principal to buy everybody business cards. I was like, because we are teachers and we are professionals. Like, why can't I have a business card
Right.
to hand out my business card to a parent? And I think that once we start thinking of ourselves in that way and elevating ourselves, then other people will think of us that way too.
Well, let me ask you this. As a leader, and both of you all have been a leader in some capacity, how do you feel when a teacher constantly says, well, I need to leave because my child got suspended again, or I got to go up to the school? You can't help but think subconsciously, how can you expect, first of all, you can't hold these kids to a higher standard you hold your own kids. If you don't have any discipline what you brought in the world and you birthed, how are you going to be an effective leader?
I don't agree with that at all, because there are some children, and being able to now see 82 campuses in discipline,
Right.
They have good parents. That environmental factor gets in, and they just don't listen. It is not because they haven't been told right from wrong. It is not because they don't have consequences. It is because some kids just have oppositional defiance and don't want to do what their parents told them. And it.
Okay. Well, first of all, you said parents, and what I've encountered is that a lot of our kids at one point were raised by their mother, and now you get into where they're not raised by their mother; they're raised by their grandparents. Now you can take this as offense, but it's a fact. One of the most influential things on how your successful rate's gonna be is how long your father has been in your life. If you take statistics and you see men who raise children by themselves have just about the same exact results as the ones who raised with their mom. Mamas mess children up, period. You really screw the boys up and you mess the girls up too. The men, we don't get men back into the household.
I'm really just gonna let you sit here and say that.
Because it's true. It's statistically true.
It's the Frank truth.
We need you to quit walking around like your neighborhood watch on the damn podcast. Like you, it looks like we playing laser tag with an extra square. It's just green and moving.
Statistically, it's true. It is true. And I tell you something else that hurt people. A child, one of our problem areas are young black males. Certain things that teachers need, they can't teach you in school anyway. They can't teach you compassion and empathy. A good teacher really don't need all these rules. We call it an IEP. But common sense tell you, if this boy having problems, you're going to do something different. We call it tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. Tier 2 is simply a good teacher saying, you sit next to me and let's go over it again. Tier 3 is simply saying, you still don't get it, let somebody else help you. If you had good people, good character, caring about kids, you wouldn't need all these programs. When I met Marva Collins, when she came to talk, she was one of the most inspirational people I ever met. She hugged the kids. She put them in their car. She took all of these kids and they went to Ivy League schools. They're supposed to be special ed. She did not believe in ODD. Like my mama didn't believe. I got ADHD, you could tell. But my mama called it BAD. She put my ASS and I got okay. A medicated ass whooping will solve most of your problems.
Not work for every child. I don't think there's.
Well, why ADHD? That ass whooping is still relevant today. Now, all successful organizations have not worked off these programs we're talking about. Now I'm telling you for sure, I have ADHD to the fact to where the adult psychiatrist was amazed. Like, how have you made it this far? My younger brother has. He's an attorney here, and I attribute that to my mama misdiagnosing me and saying, "No, you don't got ADHD. I'm gonna show you how to concentrate." And I learned how to concentrate just fine. But
think you were gifted and talented,
right,
actually. And what is
going to a psychiatrist is like going to Walmart. You're gonna leave with something. If all of us go to a psychiatrist, he gonna diagnose us with something. We're not gonna leave regular now. He gonna give us something.
I think that you are speaking and sounding like an authoritative leader and a boss.
Ooh.
I have kids who are
And not an
nonverbal.
influential leader with a servant heart.
I have had kids that were nonverbal and they were self-contained special ed. They follow me around every day with my keys. We open doors, we speak to everybody. Within 6 months, these kids were speaking. These are kids they say he can't learn. He can learn. He can learn something, maybe not to the magnitude of everybody else. But the first thing we got to do is stop saying he can't do it. And we got to
Yeah, I
stop
agree with
blaming and
that.
making excuses.
With that.
It's just facts. You are going off, I think, I believe.
Exactly.
Well, and the problem with education, you got a lot of males, but you have very few men. And it's not the women's fault that we don't have enough men to stick up and actually be men in these positions. So the women go, you know, that black women are the most highly educated group of people in the United States. But they also
a walking encyclopedia over there. You have thrown out more stats tonight than
well,
Dr.
Google it. They are the most highly educated group of people. They're also the most unmarried and most divorced group of people.
And why do you think that is?
Because I think by nature, women are nurturers. They are, even if you believe it biblically, it's the only reason for a woman to be a helpmeet to a man, and she's supposed to also be, that's what the Bible says. Ain't the word of God, not Frank. The Bible says that. But women are by nature nurturers, and women, most of the time, and I look at my staff members, when you talk to a woman, I count the number of times they say, I think, I believe, I feel, because they make decisions that are emotional. Men are more logical thinkers. Now, do you have women that I got women that can run circles around me? I'm not saying it. But in general, women deal off emotions and not logic and reason.
You do hear a lot of women talk about feelings.
That's
Yeah.
backpedaling. Come on.
Yeah, but I guess, Cass, you kind of choose wrong too. So I guess that's your fault because your choices are bad. And I think that, like, if I go to the store and my girl send me for some meat, I would find the first woman and say, "Hey, I need some meat." She'll say, "Is it for cooking? Is it for this? Is that?" And then she'll help me. And that's what women should do. You should say, "I have no good picking skills." You need to find the first man and say, "Please pick a man for me because I'm incapable of making a good decision."
Historically, a lot of people passed on the general notion that women had to just, they should just be happy to have a man, and you got to tolerate everything that comes along.
Betty right. Having a piece of man is better than having no man at all.
And is.
That's
And
right.
is.
And women then became miserable while the men was out living their best life.
Well, first of all, older women, they made decisions based on what's best for their family. Modern women make decisions what's best for them. I'm not happy. Your mom and dad been married how long, son?
7 years, 58 years, something like that.
Mine at 54. And I don't think for 1 second my daddy didn't do shit. But my mama said the importance of having this man around these 3 boys, even if I gotta be a little unhappy, I'm gonna make a decision what's best for my family and not for me. Now, modern woman, like, I'm not happy, I can't express myself, and this and that, and now, yeah, you happy, but your children screwed up. Now, I ain't talking about anybody who's skull dragging you, putting your head between the washing machine and dryer. I'm just talking about basic, we just don't agree. I'm on my own. And that goes back to what I said before. Whenever you have a woman in power, it's not even a woman's fault. If you made $200,000, I made 30. You would be hell to live with. And here go the thing. Listen, even if you weren't that type of woman and you were just like, Frank is out together, the man inside of me would make me feel inadequate. And I would cause problems myself because I don't feel right because my kids know you make all the money. They know I ain't doing nothing. They know I'm a homosexual. I'm just having sex for a home.
Frank, you spoke a word too.
You've overpriced yourself. So that's average.
It's my fault. I don't feel like that's true because I may not need a man. I'm not one of those women that say I don't need a man. No, I need a man. I need a man because I want to change the light bulb. I don't want
to take this trash out every Thursday morning.
Yeah, I need a man. And so, but what happens is
the average man is not gonna make what you make, son. Right? And
need a man for financial gains. Like I
correct.
want to be able to be self-sufficient,
Right. But
but it's
you
not ruled out if he doesn't make as much money as I make.
growing up around a military father that was a provider and a protector, you are attracted to men that's going to be providers and protectors. And part of that attraction to a man that's a provider, protector, he's not going to feel as good about it when you make more money.
But
Because
there were times in my parents' marriage where my mother made more money than my father.
that's true too.
But Frank, you have to admit, Frank, listen, you have to admit that a very mature man who is a man, he does not care about how much money a woman makes if they are working together, if they are in tandem, if she
Okay,
really
definition for a true man.
Well, give it to us because we're not men.
He's a provider. And you know what we're gonna do the whole time? If I was your man, son, I would bitch the whole time about you keep hitting the curb, you keep tearing up the tires. But inside, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna feel real good about the fact that I can buy you a new tire. I'm gonna complain about it, but I feel real good that when my child come home and say we got pictures, I don't have to say we gotta wait to payday. Well, I got a toothache, and I say, well, hold your mouth until I get paid. Your birthday on the 15th, but we got to celebrate on the 17th when I get paid. Something inside a man don't feel right. Now, here go the other problem. If you find a man to make more than you, the question becomes, if a man make $300,000 a year, why the hell does he want a 50-something-year-old woman? He wants some 26, 27, 28. So you don't qualify for the rich man, and you overprice yourself for the regular man. Because it's not what you want done. Like you go to a car dealership, it's not what you want, it's what you qualify for. You can want anything you want, but if you don't qualify
So
for
you're
it,
telling me that your 52-year-old tail, you're not attracted to a woman your age. You need somebody 26. That's exactly what you just said.
not what I'm saying.
That's exactly what you just said.
But done for the record, you kind of smoking hot right now. So, but what I am saying is this. If I got to deal with all your complaining, why would I want to take you, Don, for example, to, I don't know, I'll take you to Mexico, only for you to say, oh, I've been there before. And then I take you to a place like, yeah, well, I did that before. We have no new experiences to share. There's no.
Create new experiences.
My brother said the same thing. He said
That I can.
a man wants to be your first.
So I think I'm impressing you. I take you to a nice restaurant. You've been there 6 times with your ex-husband. Your boyfriend took you there. We don't have anything. We can't have a first child together. We can't do a Christian together. We can't buy a house together. You have already done all those things with somebody else. We have nothing new.
So you need to raise. So you want someone that you need to raise. So you need someone to make you feel powerful.
It's the hero syndrome.
Yes, I want something. I want to save someone. I want somebody.
That's who you need to be.
Like a car. I want somebody with low freeway miles. I don't want somebody with a bunch of miles that's been driven by 15 people and the car fact come back, well, it's got a few problems.
But you don't want that from a woman. But at this age, if we're the same age, you're coming as a refurbished model yourself.
Exactly.
Men gain value by age and wisdom and money and their experiences. So that is why typically women date older guys. So it's like this. You get your $1 million up front with your youth, with your virginity, with your beauty, and you can use it any way you want to invest to get a man and be fine. Men don't come into their own till they 45 or 50 when they start really getting their money and moving up in their careers. So
for that.
And then,
okay, I tell you what, Sonya. You and I can go out when I come to town. Do you love that little boy of yours?
My son is 32, 3 years old. He's not a little boy.
If your son came home 32 years old, let's say he making $250,000 a year, right? And he came home with a woman with 2 children and been married before, you would tell him that's a good pick, son?
Tell him that's the pick for you. That's the best pick for you. I'm not going to interfere in his adult life.
That don't make walk around the house sense for you to advise your son.
You're telling me, so excuse me, sir. So you're telling me that your adult children, if they have met someone and they are compatible and they are working together, and that, let's just say that young man has 2 children, you would tell your daughter,
run, you have no new experience because you have something I can't deal with. So once you tell me you got all these little bit, I don't fool with little children, period. If you got a little bit of children, I'm not going to grow to love you because I already know we are not in the same place in life.
Hey, I'm with you on that, Frank. Now, listen, I'm not dealing with anybody who doesn't have adult children. But here's the thing. The same thing that you say would be deal breakers for a single successful woman with adult children like us.
Yeah.
Right.
You come as that very same model, but you're just a man. So you're saying it's acceptable for you as a man,
Okay, but first of all,
and not as a woman.
But
That
first
is
of all,
so misogynist.
we are the consumers. You're the buyers. It's too many women that go around. You are the men are the ones the shortage, not the women. So how you gonna put yourself? Here go the other thing. If you tell a man, if a man says I'm looking for a woman, and I ask you, Sonya, as my friend, hey, I need to find a woman. I would do everything it takes to get a woman, including cut my hair, whatever I need to do. Now, if you tell a woman that's looking for a man, if you take everything that men absolutely hate, that's what you do. You go get this long ass glue some hair on top of your head, put some long lashes on, dye that pink. Everything we say we hate is what you do. And then you say we ain't get no result. A man's not the same way. We do things.
But now you're taking high blood pressure pills, but you still want that 26-year-old.
Well, first of all, at this age, a man really ain't looking for a woman, looking for a nurse.
Exactly.
But if I got to pay to play, if I qualify for a Bentley for $600 a month, why the hell would I get a Hyundai for $600 a month? So if I qualify for a 26-year-old model, why the hell would I get a 52-year-old damn woman with 3-4 little badass shirts and holler around at her, mama, and all that crazy?
The part of it is Don. Do you not see that he's telling me what I qualify for, but he is self-qualifying himself.
Listen,
he is already doing his self-qualification.
If you put all three of our stats side by side with no name, you would not know whose stats was who.
Was what
but
now?
he just disqualified all of our stats.
He's saying if he qualifies for a Rolls Royce, well, who the hell told you that? You are qualifying yourself at a higher value, but you're going to tell us what we're worth. I bet you are lying.
The market. Okay, first of all, let's say this. What percentage of men make 6 figures or more? And then you add, what percentage of black men make that? So when you do this right, so you're looking at probably about 5% in most places.
I still think that's an inference. I don't think you know.
Let's Google it. Throwing out stats.
Let's Google it. I'm going to Google it right now. But
he talking about over there in his neighborhood. It's only 5%. So that means that is the rule for the whole world.
Yeah, his vantage point is like a horse with blinders on.
Hey, Siri.
You know, I never realized that my bestie was such a narcissist. He is such a narcissist.
Alexa, what percentage
I'm learning today that he's a narcissist.
He is, in a sense.
Alexa, what percentage of men make 6 figures in the United States? You talking too much, again. Okay, Alexa, what percentage of men make 6 figures in the United States? Let me just Google it on my phone.
Because Alexa is pissed off about what you said about women, so she just she's using her logic to tell you to figure it out on your own.
No, I'm finna just Google it. Because I don't want you to be
You need to ask Alex instead of Alexa.
Exactly. Because you don't believe anything Alexa would say anyway. Or Siri.
All right, here we go. So, 7%. No, 21% now black men. Let me put this on here. All right.
21%. See, if we'd have just gone with your arbitrary guess of 5, we'd have shorted a lot of men.
Hold on. Now I'm going to put black men in there. And you are down to, I think it's 9%, something like this.
You think. So, you sound like a woman. You got now? What?
All right, let me see. To see more according to the census. 6%.
If I want to continue to be successful,
according to
I can't get a man. I gotta be broken dumb with no experiences in order to have a man.
American Men Survey data 2021, 6% of black adults in the U.S. have an annual average of $100,000 or more. So you literally got 100 women competing for 6% of men. So if you're competing for 6% of men, why the hell he deal with somebody? He's only 6% of the population. Get anybody he wants.
Because I'm bringing the 6 figures. He's bringing the screwdriver.
Okay, but a real man, son, if we stay together, it doesn't matter how much you make. I'm going to pay the bills. I'm going to pay. So if you made $4.5 billion, I'm still going to. That's not going to help me. I'm paying my own bills now.
Let me pose a question to you.
Okay.
From a woman to a man. If you
Keep going.
where'd you come up with that stat? That's just another one of those statistics that you made up, right?
Yeah.
This is the most ignorant podcast we've ever done.
So
Okay.
listen, Frank, here's my question to you.
Okay.
So if you woman and
Right.
you guys were compatible, you did things together, you enjoyed each other's company, and she made more money than you, right?
Right.
Significantly more money
Right.
than you. Would you be able to handle that? And how
Yeah.
would but no. How would you handle that?
I would have that dinner ready. I wear an apron. She could pop me on my booty like at home. And I'd be like, baby, your dinner's here. You know, I'm tired of working. I'm like, y'all, here, I want somebody to take care of me sometime too. But I couldn't deal with what
So what
comes
is
with.
wrong with a woman who makes a substantial amount of money to have a house husband? How do you know that that woman
Because
is not looking for that person who's gonna cook and clean and all of that while she
it
makes
would
the money?
it would sound good at first, but after a while, I mean, I couldn't live. I just couldn't be happy like that. And I've known anybody who operate outside the nature where it's designed to be, it does not work. I got friends like that. They used to brag about my woman do this and they did all that. But over a period of time, if I'm at home and I'm in a woman's role, as soon as that yard man come over with his shirt off glistening, you gonna look at that man out there and be like, oh my God. You are not, I don't care what you say, I'm in there cooking, bringing your tea. When that man pulled up that lawnmower and the muscles popping and he got that shirt off, your nature gonna kick in because you're going to be attracted to a man. It's just like if a man got a hard one, when he sees something soft, he going to be, because you can't fight your nature. So I can go around all I want, and I can wear all the suits and ties I want.
God.
But when that man do some man stuff, you going to feel better about yourself. When you hear that knock at the door, he say, baby, hey, stay right here. He go downstairs. Hello? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? When he go downstairs, you gonna feel a certain kind of way. But he said, hey, be quiet for the here that we in here. Don't say nothing. You gonna like, look at this dude here. When that towel blow and that man get out and jack that car up and put you back on the road. But when he sit there looking just as lost as you talking about, you got AAA, you are not gonna respect him. You gonna be like, now God, even if he don't do it, even if he don't cut the grass, the fact that he can. Every now and then you like this, he gotta pop out and show him. So even if you don't do man stuff every day, just the fact that he can do it is gonna be attractive to you. You're not gonna be,
You
son, you
I
ain't
am
fit this.
going to. I feel like that is enough for now. We need to adjourn this at another time for maybe next week or so. But I thank you for this conversation that has been so very enlightening.
We can talk about it offline.
Let me tell you, and I don't know
People
why
change.
the Lord saw fit to make that man that my bestie. I don't know why, because it is a heavy burden, God, that I carry to be that close to Him. Because this guy is so misogynist and so egomaniacal. Like he's always been that way, though. Always. That's the consistency from the young Frank to this in this piece. That is his mindset.
You couldn't say the mature Frank, could you?
Wait, I could. Say I couldn't hear you because my young woman was calling me on the
That is his mindset about women, and I agree with the providing and protecting, but it is devaluing women, the very people that you love, you need, that you choose to nurture. And so it has been so enlightening to me to know the consistency of the mindset, but also what is he doing with this cheap internet?
I don't get it. I'm so like, this has been, how many years is this? 30?
Like 30, almost 30, almost,
40
yeah,
years.
34.
Yeah.
But literally, we have this conversation all the time.
A mature man, a man who is confident in himself, can handle a woman who's being successful. And I've heard it before, a man can't do anything for, yes, he can, a whole lot. So,
Yeah.
it's just, but, he doesn't understand when you say, I don't need a man for his money. And I'm that way too. At this point, when you've had money and people with money, and when you know that what you need is someone who treats you right and respects you, and you long, then you know what? Money is a great addition, but is it going to be your whole determining factor?
Because the thing about me and money and in relationships is, I'm like Beyonce, I can upgrade you. I can show you how to flip your money. I can, if you got a plan and a hustle and you are persistent, I can show you how to, where we can do so much together. And it goes back to what you said. It's about what we can accomplish together, because the tides can turn at any time. You know, my famous saying, you could be a pigeon today and a statue tomorrow.
You know.
But if I fall, I need a man who values my heart enough to catch me and say, okay, now it's my turn to elevate. It is almost like Frank is speaking from this antiquated
There.
oppression of women. Like I need you, and I'll let you do a little bit because I protect and provide for you. But if you get out of the lens of what I perceive to be the success you should have, then now you're of no value. And so we definitely need to come back
do anything new for you. I can't do anything new for you. You've already done all of those things. So all right, so let's do some things that I've never done.
And never saying that maybe now you can show me some things new.
Yes.
See, because that would seem like an emasculation to him, to allow a woman to show him something new that he's never experienced. In his mind, or the way, and maybe I'm misinterpreting it, it is a derogatory thing, or kind of like takes away from your manhood if you are the person receiving the new experience from a woman. That is the craziest I've ever heard.
Because I can't show you anything new. I can't take you to Mexico. You've been there. I can't take you to this restaurant. You've been there 6 times. Well, you know what? Be creative and come up with another restaurant.
Yeah.
See, do something else.
That's right. Because don't try to introduce me to your last woman's playbook. See, that's the problem. Men don't want to step up their game. See, that same playbook you ran on her, that was a different team. Exactly. You can't try to come and introduce me to her playbook. I'm uniquely made. You got to come with something different. But communication with me will let you know that, hey, let's try this restaurant. Let's try something new.
Yeah, because taking her to Papa Do's may have been the ultimate for her. But would I emasculate you because you want to take me to Papa Do's? Absolutely not.
And the thing is, if you even know that I went 6 times with someone from my past, then that means you're being nosy and you're insecure. Because I wouldn't even tell you that I've been 6 times with another man. What I did with someone else will not show up in the relationship I'm in now. So that means you started off communicating with me from a lens of insecurity about what somebody else may or may not have done. So you might not be the one for me anyway.
There you go. And that's
crazy.
It's the insecurity of all of it. I'm speechless. I just want you to know I am.
Girl, but I love my bestie. I swear to God, I love him. Girl. But he's just about as crazy as they come.
Not even surprised by any of the conversation, because it's the whole normal conversation all the time.
But it's good to have the conversation. But we're going to argue the whole time on here because what you're saying is crazy.